For almost 3 decades, Align Technology has been the leading brand in clear aligners. But in my conversations with orthodontists, the sentiment is mixed, and many are looking for alternatives. Though the question at hand is, are they still committed to us as orthodontists? Well, let's find out. Our Golden Age of Orthodontics podcast sponsors make it possible for us to bring you new episodes. Lightforce Orthodontics is revolutionizing orthodontic care with cutting-edge custom bracket technology that offers personalized digital treatment plans that are fast, precise, and uniquely tailored to your patient's needs. Take advantage of the new standard of care with 3D printed, fully customized brackets combined with indirect bonding and digital planning. You can learn a lot more and take advantage of some special offers by visiting our partner page at pplpractice.com.
The future of orthodontics is evolving and changing every day. But although the way to achieve practice growth has changed, there's never been a better time to be an orthodontist. Let's get into the minds of industry leaders, forward-thinking orthodontists, and technology insiders to learn how they see the future of the orthodontic specialty. How will digital orthodontics, artificial intelligence, clear aligner therapy, remote monitoring, in-house printing, and other innovations change the way you practice? Join your hosts, Dr. Leon Klempner and Amy Epstein, each month as they bring you insights, tips, and guest interviews focused on helping you capitalize on the opportunities for practice growth. And now, welcome to the Golden Age of Orthodontics with the co-founders of People and Practice, Dr. Leon Klempner and Amy Epstein.
Welcome to the Golden Age of Orthodontics. I'm Leon Klempner, a proud board-certified orthodontist. I'm also the director and craniofacial orthodontist at Mount Sinai Hospitals here in New York, part-time faculty at Harvard, and of course, the CEO of People and Practice Marketing. And today, as usual, I'm joined by my partner, my daughter, and the brains of People and Practice Marketing, the guru of marketing herself, Amy Epstein. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you very much. It gets better every single podcast, that intro. So thank you. I'm Amy Epstein, the other founding partner of People in Practice. And we started this business together because it takes both of us in order to provide the best insights to orthodontists to help them grow their practice. I have over 20 years of experience in marketing, communications, public relations, and through People in Practice, my job is helping orthodontists implement technology, implement digital workflows, and take advantage of digital marketing strategies to attract new patients. And in a field that's rapidly evolving like orthodontics, it's really essential to hear from the leaders that are shaping its future, which is the whole reason why we have this podcast. And today we're thrilled to have Joe Hogan back on the show. For almost 10 years, he's led Align's growth and innovation in the clear aligner space, and new technologies continue to emerge that have a significant impact on the ortho industry. He brings a wealth of experience leading complex global organizations, and today we're going to hear Joe's insights on Align's vision, discuss their commitment to orthodontics, and talk about the evolving role of technology in our industry. Welcome back to the show, Joe.
Thanks, Amy. Great to be here. Great to see both you and Leon again, and appreciate being on the show.
Thank you.
Great, Joe. Thanks again. Before we started recording, Joe and I were reminiscing that we've known each other a long time. So I'll take the liberty of being fairly direct. We've had some flat and down years these past couple of years in the ortho industry. I'm sure that's not new to you. And arguably, the orthodontic community has made Align what it is today. So my question to you is, what, if any, what plans, if any, does Align have to help support specifically the orthodontic practice community?
I think that's a good question. I know that exists in the orthodontic community, just the way you frame it. And at times I just kind of shake my head because, I think we're an orthodontic organization. We think like orthodontists. We employ orthodontists, internally to help to direct us. And, there's an incredible respect across this business. And I don't say this, lightly at all, about orthodontics and how important an orthodontist is in the sense of the skill base that they have. Like, I was explaining at our summit recently is when I first came into this business, my quick summary of an orthodontist is it was someone that straightened teeth, right? And look, I've been in the medical profession for, my goodness, at that point in time, 10 years of my life or whatever, and, different ends of medical. I had no idea, like you talked about structural cranial. I mean, I had no idea that the orthodontist actually dealt with face aesthetics and functionality and how it works. You just weren't straightening teeth. And obviously the team here understood that much better than me, but there's aspects about orthodontics that I think the common person in the world, and I would consider myself a common person, and curious, just don't really understand. And so we have fashioned this business to be able to satisfy orthodontists as much as possible, in the sense of how to use digital technology, imprinted through plastics to move teeth. And, I can tell you that it's a huge upfront, focus of this business and the most important part of what we do, not just in the US, but all over the world.
Yeah, and I get that. But, obviously GPs are a big part of the growth of a line and your business. And I understand that as an orthodontist. I know that not a lot of orthodontists are happy about it, but I mean, it's part of growing a business. But specifically for orthodontists themselves, I think that there's a sentiment that, we've kind of been tossed aside and you've gone for kind of bigger fish. And I was just wondering if there was any effort at all to kind of, throw us a bone somewhat and do something for us in some way. So that's the question.
Yeah. Well, Leon, first of all, when you say that, I know that sentiment again exists out there. It frustrates me at times too, because it's not. Look, I think, we lost the antitrust case years ago remember, we only sold to orthodontists at one point in the career. I wasn't here of the company. And we were made to, sell to general dentists too. Now, I've heard, I don't know if I laugh about this. I've heard some, orthodontists say, well, you filed that case against yourself so that you could service the GP community, right? And I kind of laugh and I think, well, we're not that smart to do that, anything like that. It just doesn't work that way. I think with general dentistry and they are teeth straighteners. They think about straightening teeth. And so they basically take derivatives of the broad products that we sell to the orthodontic community. Like, you won't see IPE devices to any extent being used inside dental community. You won't see Invisalign first. You won't see mandibular advancement. You won't see that kind of technology in general used across the GP industry. And you'd say, what do we do with, what would you do for orthodontists? I think we bring groundbreaking leading technology that allows you to address cases digitally in a different way. And we can get into that. Certainly than you ever could have with, common devices like S6 devices and things that have been used, twin block that have been used for, in case of, class 2 and those types of things. And so also, if you look at what we've done with ClinCheck over the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years, you probably have put $250-300 million in the last 5 years for 5-minute ClinCheck. That's not for, GPs or whatever. That's for orthodontists. That's coding what you do, hard coding what you do. And specifically as a singular doctor, how you want to move teeth, we'll hard code that. And you can scan that coding will be applied. We bring up 3D controls. You can make those changes and send them right to manufacturing. It's that kind of efficiency that the orthodontic community, if you're going to focus on clear aligners, I think demands and needs to make that happen. And so I would say broadly, do we sell to GPs? Sure. Do I appreciate them as customers? Yes. Predominantly, who we sell to in the United States and all over the world are orthodontists. That's the predominant part of us. Do we try to service GPs as well as we can? Yes. They're not as demanding in the sense of the product specificity and the productivity as what you have with orthodontists. So, right now we spend about $350 million a year in technology. Remember, if you roll up all of our competitors, that's like 4x what anyone else would spend or 5x before. And I think that's the best way I can answer is that we spend that money with a focus on the orthodontic community and how do we move digital orthodontics forward. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. And it's a good segue into something that I wanted to talk about as we move to 2025. Let's talk a little bit about technological advancements that will impact the orthodontic field, but, at a line, but also maybe beyond a line. What are your predictions for trends and technology advancements that are going to have an impact on the day-to-day of an orthodontist?
Yeah. Amy, it's a good question. I'd say, broadly, there's three areas specifically that we focus on. One is iTero. And you saw our new Lumina product that we just announced. And it is an orthodontic product that we, first announced. And, we'll move it into general dentistry here as we go in the first quarter of next year. That was 6 years of work to get to that product. The wand size is half the size of what we had before and half the weight. The breadth is 3 millimeters, and it's this multi-structured light rather than confocal imaging. It reduced the constraints to confocal imaging. I can get into that if you want to. It allowed speed and breadth and capability to image a palate and do the entire thing. That is the new platform, I feel, for scanners all over the world. You're going to have multi-structured light in some form or fashion. Confocal imaging and just single camera with a mirror is going to be in the past in a hurry. So secondly is the 5-minute ClinCheck that I just mentioned is, at one point in time, when I first started here, we were moving more information back and forth with orthodontists than Netflix was moving to people. It's that these files are that intense and that big. And so we've always known that whole typing suggestion in, Leon, like you were used to in the past, and us making a change in Costa Rica and bringing that back and that workflow was not digital. That was just analog facilitated by digital. 5-minute ClinCheck, we're getting more and more. This year, or probably, significant number of our cases will be done what we call touchless because we can do the algorithms or whatever. And then I think thirdly, the biggest thing in the industry is 3D printing. I grew up in the plastics industry. I think you knew that, Leon, and Amy. So I've always had a fetish for material science. I grew up in Pittsburgh and I studied metallurgy at one point in my career and whatever. I've always felt that if you look at any invention in the world, really that significantly changes something, it's always based on material science. Look at silicon wafers and how that moves, right? You think about battery technology, right? From cadmium, you take lithium ion from cadmium, nickel, right? Those are huge transitions, and it's usually based on material science. When I came into the business and realized that we were only making molds and then vacuum forming of performance plastic on top of that, I thought, wow, the holy grail here is to 3D print an aligner. And I don't want to go too deep into that. If you want to follow that, I can bring it into it. But those three areas, I think, overall will be the biggest changes to orthodontics going forward from a digital standpoint. Now, I know, Amy, your question wasn't directed just at me. It's what's going on in the industry. But I haven't seen any competitors do anything. When I look at technology, I always think of breakthroughs, platforms, and derivatives. Is how I always think of technologies. Okay. And derivatives are quick things that you do that are kind of incremental, whatever. Platforms, I call Lumina a breakthrough platform. Okay. I call 3D printing a true breakthrough going through. When I look at our competition, I don't mean this demeaningly at all. They work off of derivatives. They basically take what we've been doing for 27 years. They do some little twitch on it or something to get it in the marketplace. So there's no trend, I'd say, overall in platform or breakthrough technologies that I see in the orthodontic industry that has to do with, moving teeth that's facilitated by our competition at the moment.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about the industry now as it relates to what's going on in the political world. We have a new administration coming in. There's potentially major economic policy change on the horizon. Do you think that any regulatory shifts will affect the orthodontic industry, and how might it?
Well, honestly, I'm a business person. Guys, I've been in a lot of industries. I always think that a light touch on regulatory is a good thing, not a bad thing. What I've seen is from a public company standpoint with the SEC and different, organizations or whatever over the last, several years have been really difficult to deal with. There's just a huge amount of cost and focus and things we have to do with, some legitimate, some not. I feel with the new administration, there'll be more degrees of freedom in the sense to operate in a more of a fast manner than what we've done in the past. Now, look, I think the tariff situation, obviously with Trump and what he's talking about is an issue, for all of us, because this is an international industry. There's a lot of export and imports or whatever. My job is to make sure that we help to mitigate that in some way. When I first started here, we only had a plant in Mexico. Today we have a plant, outside of, inside of China. We have a plant in Poland. We have our plants in Mexico. We've moved treatment planning all over the world or whatever. And so I feel like we have a certain degrees of freedom to be able to manage around those tariffs if they come to be in some way. But lastly, I'd say I'm hopeful that we'll see a stronger economy in the next couple years. And if you go back to before COVID, that was a strong economy that we all enjoyed. And I know the orthodontic industry in the U.S. has seen a couple down years, like 2 or 3 years. But we have, we've grown, but we haven't grown, the double digits that we did in the past. We've pretty much leveraged companies overseas in order to grow. But to bring something to your attention, if you go back to the Great Recession that started in 2008, right? And you take a look at the orthodontic community in our sales, for 3 years, in 29, 10, and 11, we were down like 5% growth, and the orthodontic community was down. And so it's almost been repeated completely like that. And what we're seeing, and our best gauge on that is the Michigan Consumer Confidence Index. If you watch that, and a lot of people in the analyst community will regress that to our stock price, but I want you to forget about that. Just look at the orthodontic business itself and look at those back 3 years. We've seen this before. And orthodontics is a big consumer purchase that's not necessarily covered by insurance like in other areas and industries. And when you run in these situations where consumers do not feel good about the future of the economy, they are tough to reach into their pockets and take that change, particularly the adult market. The teens are often saved for to work through. And that's what we're going through now. And I feel if we can see a stronger economy here with a lot less inflation, that index should go up and it should be a better market for all of us. Wow, that's a long answer to your question.
No, it's a good answer to my question. It's exactly what I was looking for. So thank you.
Yeah. So Joe, you mentioned iTero. So I'm going to bring up another pain point that I'm seeing in the industry.
He'll bring up the pain points and I'll do it. You don't want to talk to me moving forward and you're not going to want to talk to him.
I mean, how often do I have an opportunity to talk to the CEO of Align Technology?
Anytime you want to, Leon, to talk.
All right. So here's the story with that. And this is an opportunity, frankly, for you to really address the orthodontic community with an explanation. Because I don't understand it, but let me pose it to you. The concern is that if you buy an iTero scanner, two concerns. One is, why can't you use any scanner? And why is there like a list of preferred scanners? That's question number one. And question number two, if I buy an iTero scanner, why can't I sell it to one of my colleagues? It seems like I'm locked in some kind of anti-competitive culture or something. Those are the issues.
These are questions that you're like harvesting from Facebook.
Yeah, these are Facebook groups, right?
Groups
so I'm on all of, I'm active on all those Facebook groups, okay. and we have 8,000 orthodontists that have subscribed to those. So these are things that come up repetitively. So tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah, first of all, I empathize with that. I understand, your first point, which is we only take iTero scans. We still take PVS impressions. There are parts around the world where we still take some scanners. Primarily, Leon, one is we really believe in this digital workflow for the doctor, that interface between iTero and Invisalign is a really rich platform in the sense to drive productivity, to do patient conversion, to have, when I say productivity, in a sense, you'll see us coming out here shortly with a much better integration between IDS and a DPMS system. So you eliminate that duplication of entering information into IDS and then having to enter the same, it's frustrating, I know, for doctors, the same information into your DPMS system, right? So that with that is we're just trying to create a platform and a work experience that's as productive for both of us as we possibly can that you can use. The other side of it is everyone, all CEOs talk about, artificial intelligence today and whatever. Remember, we've done 20 million cases, roughly. I'm rounding up about 1 million, 20 million cases. From that, we kind of know what we're doing now. I mean, we understand. And so we use machine learning, which is the foundation of when you think of artificial intelligence, to really drive things. And so when I talk about 5-minute ClinCheck, that is a huge number. I mean, millions of machine learning algorithms that are taking these hard-coded information to orthodontists and moving them into our algorithms. iTero information is different than what you pick up with reshape or what you pick up with Sirona or what you pick up with Medit or Shining 3D or whatever. I don't want to spend that money to qualify another scanner and put more machine learning on that and filter out that equation. To me, it's not what we want to do. And or where I want to spend my money. Now, I know some, orthodontists would maybe want to use a reshape or something or whatever, but we feel like we have leading technology, and that technology is a platform for productivity and growth. I'll stop there before I get to number 2. Does that help?
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand that. I mean, I don't know the technology. I'm not deep into that. All I know is, I thought an STL file is an STL file. So, I mean, why can't you take it? If it's generated from a quality scanner.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about an STL file, I think of a PDF. I got an image, but I don't have the integrity that I have from a file itself that was created with our technology. Okay. You ever try to modify a PDF image? You want to shoot yourself, Leon. So, and there's so many different scanners in the world, and they all employ different technologies. Majority of them are confocal and mirror. Now, and Lumen is the first of, I'm sure other competitors will come out, with derivative technology of what we do. And so if it wasn't for artificial intelligence and it wasn't for the digital platform and workflow that we think so critical, I mean, sure, we'd open this platform up like many of our competitors have in order to do that. But, I really feel it's a much better experience for our doctors. And it will in the future, as it is now, drive more and more of this, what we call no-touch ClinCheck, that make things so much more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, what about the second question?
Overall, when, as you look at, scanning technology in general, right, we deliver these iTeros to you and you want them to work. Okay. And they do work and they function and we're behind them, right? If you have an issue, obviously you're paying a subscription fee. We're making sure we're updating the software. We're making sure that things work or whatever. We have an active engagement of, if you want to change your platform, we'll buy those scanners back and we create what's called a CPO unit, a certified pre-owned unit. And then we take that and we sell it back into the marketplace. It could be here. It could be some other place in the world. What we've run into and why we've instituted this policy is that sometimes a doctor will sell the scanner to another doctor and we'll get a call. Not sometimes, often we'll get a call and say, hey, this thing doesn't work. We need you guys to fix this thing. And we'll say, well, where did you get it? Well, Leon sold us 3 of them. He said they were great. And we said, well, we love Leon, but those aren't working, right? And it's going to cost us, $10,000 to fix those things to get them where you want to. And it's just not have we addressed those and helped that? It's just not a conversation you want to have with someone who paid maybe even more than what you can get, on eBay in some way for that particular thing. So we just, to eliminate consternation and conflict with our doctors, we put this restriction on having to sell it back to us. Now, I don't feel like our prices are way out of line with eBay prices in the sense of what you can sell these back to for us versus what you'd offer to a doctor or whatever. And to me, that's kind of fair. If your audience out there says, Joe, that's not true, it's $5,000 more or whatever, look, I'll listen to that and we'll have to maybe change some things. But we just don't want that constant aggravation that we have and you have as an orthodontist when you get a scanner and it doesn't work. And then it's all of a sudden our responsibility to deal with it. And it's not that we won't deal with it. It's like we think there's a better way.
So, Joe, let's shift a little bit and talk about aligners as a treatment modality versus brackets and wires. Brackets and wires are still a vast majority of treatment, right? And so, and especially when we're talking about kids and I think even teens, why is that the case, I guess? And is it driven more as a marketer, I'm curious, is that like, who's the decision maker on that being the case? Is that, demand? Is that an issue with awareness? I don't know. I don't think so. Awareness of aligner therapy is a good option. I don't think so, based on Align's advertising. Is it based on what the doctor prefers and their confidence level treating with plastic versus with brackets and wires? What's your perspective?
Amy, not to be cute, but it's a little bit of everything you said. Okay, I'd start with when I first met Leon and we got together 9 years ago or so. We could do about 60% of the cases. And so there was always, to me, when I thought about clinical confidence with our product line, that we had to get better at what we do and cover a broader amount of cases so we could up the clinical confidence of our orthodontist out there to handle cases. So again, probably more than $1 billion of R&D spend, over much more than that over the last, I'd say, 8 years or so. We can now comfortably do 95% of the cases. Our orthos with IPE and, palate expansion and different things, we feel we're at 100% of the cases. We say 95, but we're 100. So I'd say the answer to your question can't be today clinical confidence, because and we have our best doctors that will tell you that are 100% Invisalign. Joe, we can handle anything. And we actually charge more for wires and brackets than we do for clear aligners because of the productivity that you can really afford us as far as chair time, which chair time is the critical variable in the profitability of an orthodontist, which you know better than me. So I would say we're at the point now to answer your question, Amy. This is about, and I don't say this demeaningly at all, I say this very supportively. The hardest things in work to do are change workflow. Because you're not just changing your own workflow, right? You're changing your practice's workflow, the way you think, the way you operate, the way that you work with patients or whatever. And so commitment to move to digital and the digital platform that we have and to do the product, it means completely retraining yourself, completely retraining your staff and what you do. We think that with 3 chairs, and this has been somewhat proven around the country, you can do 1,000 cases a year on 3 chairs. And especially now with virtual care where you can monitor the patients and we use AI to figure out where they stand or whatever. And you get a lot of cases that last 18 months that you might have 4 visits with, right? So the productivity is huge, but you have to learn everything, clean checks and the intricacies of how you work with it. And so I honestly think it's preference for orthodontists. And do I support that orthodontists have the final say? I certainly do. Look, but I know many of the orthodontists out there not being comfortable with our product one way or another will use a terminology, well, your kid won't wear the aligners. We've seen that before. Or Invisalign can't do that case. Okay. I think we've taken that, away on the Invisalign can't do that case because we can do almost, anything today. So I hang most of my answer on the standpoint that this is a massive workflow change. It's huge. It changes everything you do. And I have a certain amount of empathy for you might be a part in your career where you just don't want to deal with that. And I get that. I really do.
Do you think that, I know we're going to talk about AI in a second because that's the last thing we wanted to touch on before we let you go. But do you think that the AI component, the virtual care component, will move the needle more so than in the past in terms of convincing practices to consider integrating aligner therapy into their practice or transitioning to a practice that offers aligners?
Yeah, I talked in the speech I gave at the Orthodontic Summit recently we had in Las Vegas. I said that there's 2 variables in the equation that's really important, is why digital always wins in different industries. And one is it shrinks time, the other it expands space. And the shrink time piece is that, we've proven over the years that a normal wires and brackets case that's going to be done in 18 months could be done 12 months with Invisalign, as long as the patient wears their aligners, right? That's the critical variable equation. The second part of that is you'd say, okay, I get the time piece is, what about the space piece? It's virtual care, right? You don't have to have these patients coming back to your office all the time. We can monitor what's going on out there. If a change needs to be made, you bring them back, and you don't have that comfort time or, when you have a wire bracket that comes loose and they have to come back to the office and they interrupt your workflow or whatever. And so that's really a virtual increase in space that virtual care allows, that you can monitor these patients and only bring them back where they can. And it affords, I think, a really a lot of productivity to patients, to parents too, in the sense of not having to drag the kids back into the office all the time. And now I know that offends some orthodontists because they like the office and they want people in, and I understand that kind of environment. But that's where the future is going to be. I feel is that you really leverage that capability to shrink time and expand space that digital can really do. And honestly, what I try to explain too is that you can move teeth with wires and brackets is a miracle. Okay, when you really look at how those wires and obviously been in this industry enough, and I look at that, I think it is just amazing that you can do that, and you can anticipate what those movements are when you have all those teeth floating at one time. I mean it I have an incredible amount of respect for that skill, right? But I call that skill a craft. It's a craft. It's what you do. What we've done is we've changed this is you can still practice this craft, but you can scale this craft. And from a productivity standpoint and a number standpoint, that you could never scale wires and brackets. But you have to make this critical change into a much more different workflow than what you had before. And that's the chasm you have to cross. And I know it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit more about that. Let's talk a little bit about AI. And, I'm giving a lecture at the AAO meeting in Philly this year. And the title of it is, AI won't replace you, but your competitors using AI just might. So I'm very interested in exploring both the applications and the potential pitfalls of AI in ortho. So where does Align stand in terms of AI? What's the vision and where are we going?
Our vision, I think AI is such a broad term now. It's like love. It's hard to kind of get your hands around. But for where we stand is we stand at it from a very, I'd say, dogmatic technology standpoint. We're an engineering company. Split equally between hardcore engineers and software engineers or whatever. And so, we're split on the thing. We're using information in order to gain more knowledge in the sense of the science of orthodontics and move it forward. Obviously, the key to these, when you look at AI, the key is large data sets. The larger your data sets get, and remember, they have to be qualified data sets too. You have to make sure that information's, I could give you a funny example, but you have to make sure that information is gained right and then accessed properly. But the more data you have, the better off you are in the sense of being able to predict in the sense of what you have. And so I think obviously Align with 27 years of experience through this, we have a huge amount of information that we're mining and using or whatever. But we're using that information to improve our aligners and the functionality of aligners and to prove our treatment planning and how the treatment planning functions too. And so, Leon, but with AI too, which you have to always qualify this information. My middle son's studying for his PhD in paleontology, and he's writing this piece that he had to do a digital representation of this piece he had, and he showed it to me, and he said, "Hey, Dad, I had this generated with AI." I said, "It's really cool." He says, "Look at it closely," and the dinosaur had 5 legs. He says, "You would never see that 5th leg if you didn't look closely." And he said, "That's the danger with AI. Is it shows you exactly what you want, but it's the subtleties behind it that you have to make sure that you address and not take for granted." And I think that's the opportunity with AI, and that's the danger of AI. And I'm going to try to stay out of the dangerous zone and just use that information and then qualify it again and again and again to make sure it's right.
All right. Well, Joe, thank you for your insights. Thanks for joining us again. We hope that we'll be able to have you on the show again in a year or so, and we can continue the tradition of touching base every once in a while because we enjoy talking with you.
Well, Amy, I enjoy talking to you and Leon too. I really, we have a great history together, and I appreciate that. And thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
You can subscribe or download other episodes of the Golden Age of Orthodontics on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed this one, we'd appreciate you telling a colleague. We'd like to thank Lightforce for their sponsorship of the Golden Age of Orthodontics podcast. And for more information about Lightforce and people in practice, you can visit our website at pplpractice.com.
And thank you for watching and listening. You can tell that Amy and I enjoy it, and having a guest like Joe Hogan adds a lot of value, we believe, to the podcast. So we appreciate Joe's time. And if you'd like to contact me directly with any marketing questions or even suggestions of topics that you'd like Amy and I to address on the podcast, shoot me an email at leon@pplpractice.com. And remember, for forward-thinking orthodontists, it has never been a better time to be an orthodontist. We are currently in the golden age. Take advantage of it. And until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Golden Age of Orthodontics. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or visit our website at thegoldenageoforthodontics.com for direct links to both the audio and video versions of this episode.